Yeah, I'm JL Westover. I'm the artist behind Mr. Lovenstein, and I'm here to talk about my new book coming out. It's called Feelings, and that's what it's all about. I'm feeling euphoric. This has been such a big, long project. It's not easy to put a book out, and we started this almost 2 years ago. It feels great to finally be done, finally have it out there, finally have it for people to enjoy. It was between failure and feelings, and I put out a couple polls to my audience, and failure won by 2%. So I knew once I was done with failure, I was definitely going to switch over to feelings. Those were the two big things that stood out for me as I was going through my archive and all my comics was, man, there's a lot of failure and there's a lot of feelings. This one ended up becoming a little bit more intimate, a little more personal. That's where it began. And we put out a Kickstarter last year to raise funds for the book. And that went very well, and very thankful to everybody who backed that campaign. It's definitely one of the first comics I thought of to put into this collection. That comic is me classically overanalyzing the basic interactions people have and how much we take it for granted, how much we are on autopilot. They're going through all the motions, hey, what's up, man? Grabbing each other's hands, patting each other on the back. They're talking about how just things are not going well and just being honest and vulnerable with each other and just accepting that and just being yeah, I'm in it too. I did a panel with Sarah Scribbles and Beetle Moses, and it was all about where do you get your ideas? These people come up and I was like, oh, is that your panel? And I love what you said, and you said that you were inspired by nature. So did you happen to see a squirrel with a big fat ass at any point when you're on your walks? I was like, no, unfortunately, and not. That one came from my imagination. And as I'm saying this, it's just it doesn't sound good. The joke in my mind was just somebody's seen something weird that they can't let go of, that they should easily let go of. The girl is the one that's being oh my God, look at the ass on this squirrel. And the guy is just standing there And then later on, it turns out he's the one that just can't stop thinking about this. The one that I personally love a lot is this tree that's very sad. He realizes that he'll never be this big, beautiful tree that's next to it. Really down on himself. Unknowingly, there's a bird's nest in that tree, and a bird swoops in. And the bird's I love this tree. And that one was really big for me because it's not realizing what you provide to the world, or what people care about you, or not realizing the impact you can have just by being yourself. When I first had my website made, my friend made a narrow column in which I could fit my comic in. And back then, it was okay to have a pretty wide comic you saw in the newspapers, 4 panels wide. And I was if I do that, it's going to be so tiny you can't read it. All right, if I just shove this one panel down below, I can make them bigger. And I kept doing that until I hit that 2x2 grid. Weirdly, social media was picking up at that time. What I realized, and what everybody else realized, is the square is king. The square is our god. To fit nicely in a timeline that you're scrolling through, it's kind of ideal, actually. When I originally made that, it was because I was really bad at formatting my comics. So I would have 9 panels in this big square grid, and then a 10th panel just kind of hanging out below that. At one point I got the idea of what if I code in so that when you hover your mouse over that blank space, all of a sudden there's another panel there as a joke. But people eventually discovered it, and then it got to the point where people were expecting a secret panel on every comic. And I was okay, I guess I've doomed myself to do this forever. There is actually exclusive comics in the books. Both Failure and Feelings have book exclusive comics. When I did Failure, the exclusive comics, I did not do secret panels for those. It was just straight comics. And I immediately regretted that. And I knew I had to right or wrong. So when I did Feelings, I made sure every single comic basically now is a secret panel in the book. when I was in high school, I'm reading and being blown away by like webcomics and just thinking to myself like, oh my God, these are like so much better than anything I've seen before because they can do whatever they want. Like just the fact alone that they're using swear words or that there's color in all of them, or they can be longer than 4 panels. They can take up a whole page. I was so like enamored by that. And I was like, I didn't care about being in a newspaper. I didn't care about physical media or books or anything like that at the time. I was just like, I want a website. I want to be doing webcomics. My brain, for better or for worse, is wired to be thinking about comic strip ideas 24/7. And I can't turn that off. I am always writing down any idea that pops into my mind. It's every conversation. It's when I go on walks. It's when I'm watching shows, movies. It's all feeding into the machine. In the end, a lot of these are cathartic, for sure. Like the writing process, and not only the creation of it, but then also seeing the reaction to it. It's a way of connecting with people in a way that's like, I don't know, kind of transcendent from just like telling people. Like I have so much crying. There's so much crying in this book. In real life, I am a crier. It doesn't take much to get me crying. There's a lot of optimism in the comics. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, love. When you concentrate it all and you put it all into this one collection, I'm like going through and weeding out like what I want in the book and how do I want it to flow. It really did hit me. Like some of these are like 10 years old or older, and just almost seeing like an evolution of myself. You need to just embrace them and not fear them. A big one that I actually thought about a lot is anger. It's got like so many layers and connotations to it. There's like such a fine line. Like you'd be watching like a comedian get very angry and that's funny, like them yelling and getting frustrated and stuff like that. But then also going to be like the most scariest thing you can experience is when someone's throwing their anger at you. I did a lot of like reading on like stoicism and like lectures and stuff like that on like your relationship with anger, and just like letting it be just another feeling that you may not necessarily can 100% control, but you should not allow it to control you. The biggest lesson I learned is just like, you have to be okay with all of the feelings because you're a human being. And a lot of my comics deal with stifling emotions, especially sadness of just like, we have to go out in public and we are all very uncomfortable around people who are sad, to the point where you're kind of like, you're only allowed to express sadness in these very tight, controlled little environments. Oh, this happened, so now you're allowed to be sad. Versus you just can't have a melancholic day. While I do think it's totally fine to pursue happiness, and I don't think it's wrong to pursue happiness. You have to just be okay with the bad emotions, the sad, the jealous, the angry, and develop a healthy relationship. Just the more you bury them, the more they will come up in ways that you're not prepared for and can't handle. Then you're just fighting yourself. To feel bad and to cry and all that, totally normal. We all do it. It's okay. It is a fun book to read that will make you laugh, but at the same time will hit you in the feels. And at different levels, you'll be surprised what will resonate with you. And I packed this book full of like truly some of my best comics I've ever made. And then on top of that, made feelings specific comics exclusively for the book into one nice little hardcover package. It's a delightful little hardcover book that is great for yourself, to share with a friend, to sit on a coffee table. I will take you on an emotional journey in this book from beginning to end. So if you want to laugh and possibly may even cry, or maybe both at the same time, I can't think of many silly comic books that will do that.